And today, the primary focus of our briefing will be DLA Aviation. But before we get into that, I want to say a little bit about the Defense Logistics Agency as a whole. And if you look at that cover slide there, you see all the different weapon systems. We got aircraft, we got maritime weapon systems, we got some land-based weapon systems, space and missiles, and the soldier. You've got the soldier there with all the stuff that he needs. So the Defense Logistics Agency is the nation's combat logistics support agency, and we do supply roughly 95% of the consumable spare and repair parts for all of the Department of Defense. We also support federal agencies and FEMA and disaster assistance and those types of things. But it really is, if you don't find opportunities with DLA Aviation, the good thing is the briefing that when Crystal goes over the DLA Internet Bid Board system, you will see all of the DLA major subordinate commands requirements in there. For instance, Land and Maritime in Columbus, Ohio supports the land and sea-based weapon systems, all the parts for them. DLA Troop Support in Philadelphia supports all of the soldiers, the food, the subsistence, all that type of equipment, some industrial hardware items, as well as construction and equipment items, and medicine. And then DLA Aviation, we're headquartered in Richmond, Virginia. We manage the aviation supply chain. So if we go to the next slide, I somehow hit end, I think. There. It shows a lot of the commodities that DLA Aviation manages. Everything pretty much that goes on the aircraft structural components, which is in the Federal Supply Class 1560. You see over there on the left is one of our primary aviation supply classes. A lot of machine type items and sheet metal, everything from very complicated items to very simple brackets and things like that, and hinges. We also buy cable assemblies in the Federal Supply Class 5995. And one important thing to remember about those Federal Supply classes you see listed is that's one of the ways that you can find solicitations in the DLA Internet Bid Board system. And Crystal's got a really good briefing that she's going to give you on the DLA Internet Bid Board system. So just trying to give you some tips as we go along for things that will help you with the DLA Internet Bid Board system. We buy all types of electrical hardware, aircraft engine parts, jet engine parts, all of those parts, and landing gear components. And our procurement organizations, we're headquartered in Richmond, Virginia. And in Richmond, we do the majority of strategic acquisitions as well as the procurements for consumable spare parts, which are parts that they're not repairable. When they replace them on the aircraft, they're disposed of or demilitarized. And we also have fleet readiness centers. We have DLA buying cells located at San Diego, Jacksonville, and Cherry Point. And they provide the urgent needed items at those repair depots. When they come up with an item and the depot line could potentially be stopped if they don't have that item, we have an actual buying cell there of DLA buyers located at that location that goes out and finds those requirements. So if you look at Richmond and the Fleet Readiness Centers or FRCs and the consumable items, all of that is on the DLA Internet Bid Board system. We also buy depot level repairable items, new ones. We don't contract for any of the repair of a repairable item. That's done by the services. But we have 5 buying organizations at those 5 sites you see: Ogden, Warner Robins, Huntsville, Oklahoma, and Philadelphia. and that covers Air Force, Navy, and Army sites. And they buy the larger type full multi-component items that are not repairable. And there's a different process for that, which I'll talk about in a minute. So if we can go to the next slide, just to give you an idea of the volume of business for DLA Aviation, you can see we've had a really good small business trend in spend. We've increased about $400 million since FY17 through FY19. We are down a little bit this year. Funding has been a little bit more restricted than it has been in past years. So it looks like we're going to, once the final numbers come in, we're going to finish up significantly lower in dollars this year. But if you look at Maryland spend, you can see that's gone up as well. And so it's a lot of those structural parts and the machined items and the sheet metal type items and cable assemblies and items that are suitable for small business make up that spend. We have exceeded our goal for about 8 years now, our small business goal. For FY19, we finished at 21.5% compared to our 18% goal. We're currently waiting for the closeout of federal procurement data system to see where we're going to hit in 19, but it does look like we're going to be significantly lower, mainly due to increased spend at the depot level repairable sites. So if we go to the next slide, this sort of separates consumables process from the repairable items process. So if you look at the top two sites, the Richmond and the FRCs, those are in DIBS. And then the DLRs, you need to go to betasam.gov. They use actually the Air Force or the Navy or the Army procurement systems, the depot level repairable sites do. And they are not posted on the DLA Internet Bid Board system. So DIBS, which you're going to get a great briefing from Crystal on in just a few minutes, is a web-based application where you can go in and actually find solicitations and get a copy of the solicitation, quote electronically, receive your contract award. It's a end-to-end automated procurement system. Some awards are automated and some awards are buyer assisted. Now, if you want to find the depot level reparable procurements, then you have to go into BetaSam to find that. And one of the ways you can search is by the DoD activity address code. So we've listed the DODACs for each site there. So you can go in actually into BetaSam and search by that DODAC, and that will give you all of the procurements being issued out of that particular site. And if you see Richmond, we have SPE 4 and then 3 asterisks, which would be wildcards, because there are quite a few Richmond DODACs. So it's just easier to search by the SPE 4 with the wildcards. Next slide, please. Okay, this is my last slide before we get into Crystal's briefing. And it just talks a little bit about aviation and what our goals are and what's important to us. And our primary mission is supporting the warfighter. So it's absolutely critical that we have the parts available when the warfighter needs them. So we depend on our suppliers, of course, to provide their contracts and their deliveries on time and provide their quotes timely so we can get the award out and then deliver in accordance with contract requirements so we can support our customer. And one of the ways we facilitate this is through best value contracting. So we're going to track your performance in the supplier performance risk system. And basically, it's going to give you a score based on your on-time deliveries. And then it's also going to give you a quality rating. So when the contracting officer goes in to evaluate the particular offers on a particular solicitation, they're going to compare your scores. And if one supplier has let's say, a 95 delivery score and the other one has a 75, well, that contracting officer can make a best value judgment and actually pay a higher price for the higher score because it lowers their risk and we have a greater assurance that we're going to get the item we want when we actually need it. And there's a huge emphasis on warfighter readiness. It's talked about every day in DoD and DLA. And readiness, we're doing a lot of strategic acquisitions to improve our readiness, and we're also managing our transactional acquisitions to improve readiness by getting shorter deliveries and, of course, awarding to suppliers that deliver on time. And, you know, back orders is a big part of readiness. If we have back orders, obviously we're not supporting the customer. And sometimes we have unexpected demand spikes, surges, things like that. So really, you know, we're trying to communicate with suppliers, and some of our suppliers actually share information with the customer. We have some contracts where we have suppliers that actually manage the bins out at the site, the repair site or the depot, and they communicate directly with us, or they will go out and issue a procurement when they see a bin's getting low. So really, it's all about readiness, and small business is a big part of our ability to accomplish our mission. We do, you know, if you look on the right, that's our office, Crystal and I's office, point of contact information. If you have questions and need assistance, encourage you to use that email address, and it comes right in, and we can get you to the appropriate person to answer your question. We do have program managers for each socioeconomic category or subcategory: woman-owned small business, 8A, small disadvantaged business, service-disabled veteran-owned small business, and HUBs-owned small businesses. And those program managers, part of their mission and their things, their performance they're rated on is improving those subcategory programs. So if you fit one of those criteria, then we urge you to reach out to that program manager and share your capabilities and get their assistance to doing business. We also have a business opportunity specialist that we can refer you to help you with DIBs and things like that. And then lastly, if you look at the website there, that is actually the DLA Small Business website. And what they've done is combined one website from sort of a topical standpoint, and in each area you can see information for each supply chain, whether it's troop support or land and maritime or aviation. So it's a really good tool, and it's a ton of resources in there, so I urge you to check out that website as well. And now I think we can, if you have any questions for me, we can pause and do that before Crystal gets on with her DIBS presentation.
Thank you, John. That was great. We do have one question, and this one is from Rashmi, who asks, does DLA do business with the NACE code starting with 541?
Exactly what, I don't really know off the top of my head what that is. Can I get a little more information?
Yeah, Rashmi, could you give us a bit more information? And also, this is a good point to remind everybody that you have opportunity to ask questions by typing them in the chat box. So we encourage you to do that. So while we're waiting for Rashmi to do that, I will go on to the next slide, which is to introduce Crystal.
Good morning. I am Crystal Ober, Deputy Director of Small Business Programs at DLA Aviation, and I will be providing a quick overview of the DLA Internet Bid Board. The DLA Internet Bid Board, known as DIBS, is used by all of DLA to post solicitations and awards, and there is a lot of stuff posted out there. Right now, for example, our main FSC, which is 1560, which is Aircraft Components Manufacturing, has over 3,000 open solicitations. So there definitely is a lot of work out there, and we want to take you through DIBS and show you how you can navigate it. Next slide. Before we look at DIBS, we want to remind you of the steps of doing business with DLA. Please review our detailed overview, which is located in the DLA Small Business website. And also visit that website. As John mentioned, it has a lot of information on us as well as the other major supply commands within DLA. Obtain your DUNS number if you haven't already. Be sure to register in SAM. You do have to be registered in SAM in order to register in DIBS. And DIBS also pulls information from SAM. And be sure to use your local procurement technical assistance centers for help. They are DLA funded and have resources that you can use as you see from this webinar today, which are usually at no cost. Next slide. The DLA Internet Bid Board enables you to search, view, and quote on solicitations under $250,000, which is the majority of DLA procurements. I think our average procurement dollar value is about $27,000. It also allows you to see formal solicitations, which are called requests for proposals, over $250,000. It's the repository for government drawings for full and open competition solicitations, and that's located through our C folders application, which is in DIBS. And DIBS also allows you to view awards as well as submit post-award requests to your contract administrator on awards that you have received. Next slide. This is a screenshot of the DIBS registration page. You can view solicitations in DIBS without registering. However, if you want to participate in online quoting, then you have to be registered in DIBS. Detailed instructions are available at the DIBS help page. A multi-step authentication process to be allowed to register in DIBS. So the sooner you start the process, the sooner you'll be able to start quoting. The registration also allows you to use a feature called the vendor-directed notifications, which will limit your searches to a specific federal supply class or to specific national stock numbers, and you will get a roll-up email daily of all solicitations that fall within that federal supply class or within the national stock number, instead of having to do daily searches in DIBS. Also, when you register in DIBS, please make sure that the person that you put as your government POC is someone who is really familiar with the system and checks it daily, and that will also help as you start navigating DIBS. Next slide. This is a screenshot of the solicitation searches pages that are in DIBS. On the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, is the request for quotes, which we call RFQs, and they have their own site on DIBS. This is solicitations that are under $250,000. And then on the left-hand side is a snapshot of the request for proposals, which are over $250,000. Now, RFQs, requests for quotes, are less formal, and you can actually quote online for these solicitations. RFQs stay open past their due dates. So if you do see a due date in DIBS, they usually stay open past that due date until the solicitation is actually awarded. Now, the requests for proposals are formal acquisitions, and you can download the solicitations to them out of DIBS, which you have to complete, sign, and then send to the contracting officer. The closing dates for requests for proposals are firm, and you definitely need to meet those closing dates. You can search in the RFQ or RFP by national stock number. You can search by the federal supply class, which will bring up a lot of solicitations. If you know specific solicitation number, purchase request number, nomenclature is the item name, and searches for that can sometimes be spotty because the system is very particular about what you put in. But you do have the option to search using a variety of criteria. Next slide. This shows the further search limitations that you can use in the RFQ or RFP searches. They're what we call show-onlys. So if you want to search for a particular federal stock class and you want to see only those items that have technical documents which means they have drawings or specs. You can click on that, and if, for example, if you also want to limit your searches to small business set-asides or husband set-asides, service disabled or woman-owned, you can also click on that to limit your searches as well. The one thing about the show-onlys is you always have to have something in the search value field. For example, you could put 1560, which is aircraft components, and then click items with technical documents, and that will show you only those items that actually have drawings, because we do buy based on drawings, but we also procure based on part number. So it will kind of knock out those part number items if that's something that you're not particularly interested in. Next slide. This is a pretty busy screenshot, but when you put the information into the search pages and hit enter, this is what's going to pop up. Note that all the values that are in blue and that are underlined are actually live links, which will take you into technical data and let you see the technical data, or will take you into the solicitation. For the national stock number, the NSN, you can actually click on the NSN and it will take you to the technical requirements for that particular stock number, which we will show you what that looks like on the next slide. It will also show you the set-aside, if there is one. As you can see, those are circled. It will show you the quantity that we're looking for and the open and closing date for the RFQ. And also you can click on the solicitation. It will open the solicitation up and allow you to see what's there for that. And if you are registered in DIBS that can quote and are interested in quoting, you click on the little Q, the red Q for quote, and that will actually take you into the online quoting forum. Again, you can view this info without registering, but to hit the Q button to quote, you will need to be registered in DIBS. And everything over 250,000, which is our RFQs, require online quoting. Next slide. This slide gives a more detailed view on what you will see when you click on the national stock number. And this should probably be your first stop, because it gives you information about whether the item has drawings or whether the item is a part numbered item. And as you see at the top, you can still hyperlink to the same information that was on the solicitation list. You can open up the technical documents and the solicitation. This will show you if you were able to provide a quote on the item based on whether the item has technical data, which is drawings or specs, or whether we need to procure from a specific part number. And this particular item, it looks like it's part numbered with 2 approved sources, who are American Fuel Cell and the Boeing Company. So this means that we are only going to accept offers that are from these 2 manufacturers, or are from dealers providing these 2 manufacturers. If the item was full and open, where we had specs and drawings, you would actually see a drawing number there. Next slide. The C folders, when you click on the technical document, it's going to take you into the C folders, and it's DLA's repository for drawings and specs. The first time you enter the C folder, I think you use your DIBS password and ID. I just want to make you know that DLA Aviation does buy critical items, and some of the items that we procure are export controlled items, meaning the drawings cannot leave the United States. So in order to see export control drawings, you have to be certified through the joint certification process. And you can get more information on that process by searching DLA Joint Certification Process in Google. The process can be lengthy. It has gotten more extensive over the last few years. So if you're interested in export control items and being able to view drawings for those and possibly manufacturing those, you need to start the process to get export control certified as soon as you can. Next slide. So DIBS is a cradle to grave application. It's starts when the solicitation is issued, and it goes up until the award is closed out. In addition to, like I said, publishing a solicitation and a repository for drawings, it's also your access point when you start to get awards and have post-award inquiries. It allows you to communicate with your post-award administrator if you have post-award actions that you need done to the contract, or if you need information to complete the contract. So you would use this system. It is the method of choice for post-award communication in DLA. It actually goes into a system, and the post-award administrator can see it, and it's tracked for visibility and status. So please, if you start getting awards, you use this system in lieu of emails and phone and faxes to communicate with your administrator. Next slide. If you need assistance with DIBs, we are here to support you. We can assist you at the Small Business Office in registering and navigating for DIBs. We have a business opportunity specialist that can assist with that. We can help you with procurement regulations and assist you in communicating with DLA Aviation personnel if that's needed, and act as an ombudsman for any small business issues that you may have. Just email our inbox, which was on the slide that John had earlier. We also wanted to advise you that there is a DIBS technical help desk for any technical issues that you may have with DIBS. And there is a C folder help desk, which is the phone numbers there, and that C folder help desk is actually at Richmond. And they're very responsive. You usually will call and leave a message, and they'll get right back to you in case you go into the C folders and there's drawings missing or there's any issues like that. They can help you. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you for your interest in DLA Aviation, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. That was a lot of great information from both you and John. And as I said, I will be sending this presentation to everybody, so you'll be able to read through all this again. So let's take the next few minutes to answer some questions. Going back to the original question from Rashmi about the NACE codes 541, he elaborated that it's related to computer software related services. He wants to know, does DLA do business with that NACE code?
Yes, ma'am. This is John. We do have an organization within DLA that does all the contracting for all of the services and the IT and the software related support, and that's the DLA Contracting Services Office, or DCSO. So the supply chains that I talked about, the major subordinate commands, we handle all the parts buys. But if it's a service or IT requirement, then it's done through DCSO. And DLA does have an information flyer out with all of the points of contact and information. So what I can do is email that to you, and you can email it out to anybody that needs it, or everybody on the list. But it'll explain the points of contact and how we buy. It's like a 2-pager to kind of get you started, and then you can contact the small business director at the DLA Contracting Services Office, and they can help you and assist you with any other questions that you might have in regards to services procurements.
Okay, that's great. Yes, that document will be very helpful if you could share it with me later, and I'll pass that on. Okay, the next question is from Angel. She asks, would you use the DIBS board to identify software development solicitations?
DIBS is only used for the procurement of products. As John mentioned in the printable that he's going to forward to you, Yasmin, that would give information on where to find the IT stuff that is handled out of DLA Contracting Services Office, which is out of Philadelphia. And I think he's passing that information to you, so that would be good for Angel to have.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Charles. He says, PSCs and NSNs appear to be quite important in supporting DLA purchases. Is there a public location to obtain this information for small business?
Yes, if you go on to the DLA Small Business website, and I don't have it up right now, but there is a place where I think it has what DLA buys, and that will actually give you a list of federal supply classes that we buy at DLA, as well as the item, the commodity name that goes with that. So it would show 1560 aircraft components, and then it would tell you what supply command, whether it be aviation, troop support, and land and maritime, that you would actually find that particular item at. So that would narrow your searches in terms of DIBs, and also what small business office you would need to contact in relation to the federal supply class.
Thank you. Next question is from Sohail. He asks, or sorry, she, I'm not sure. I do apologize. We are IT services. We are an IT services federal contractor and have been for the past 20 years, but in the civilian market, we don't have DCAA compliant accounting system. Can we still do business with DLA?
Yeah, this is John. You should be able to. The accounting system requirement would come in for procurements where you need to provide certified cost and pricing data over the, I think it's a TINA threshold, they call it, of $2 million. So for your larger dollar procurements, you probably would, and then potentially for if there was a post-award issue with termination cost, termination for convenience cost, or something like that, you might have to have it. But yes, you could, but there could be some limitations. And if you look at your solicitation, it should identify the requirements to participate. And that would also be a good question for if you want more information, to talk to Rosita Carosella, and her point of contact information will be in the flyer that I'm going to forward. The flyer is Small Business Professional Services from November of 2018, and that's the DLA Contracting Services Office, and they're the experts in the procurement of services.
Thanks, John. The next question is from Rizwan, who asks, is there a way to search for RFQ and bid opportunities using a NAICS code?
No, DIBs, when they created DIBs, they did not include the NAICS code as a search capability. Like I told the previous person, you can go onto the DLA website and go into, actually it's doing business with DLA, and hit the drill down button. That will take you into what DLA buys. And there's actually a cross-reference in there that shows NAICS code to federal supply class. So you can actually go in there and plug in your NAICS code, and it will tell you the corresponding federal supply class. But DIBS does not have a NAICS search, I think, because Beta SAM, or what used to be FedBizOps, is more NAICS centered. So I think that, and plus DLA is very product centered, so they kept it at only FSC and national stock number. But again, you can go onto the DLA website and click on the cross-reference, and it will help you figure out which NAICS code corresponds to the federal supply class.
Okay, thank you. And we just have one more question, which is from Richard, who asks, does DLA Aviation only purchase parts, or are there opportunities for manufacturers to make products?
Yes, for sure. Now, we buy a lot of parts, as Crystal was talking about, that are already identified to one or more approved sources. And in that case, we would buy from that approved source or dealer or distributor. But there are a fair number of parts where we have a complete technical data package. And when you saw the DIB search screen that Crystal showed with the tech docs, that's a good indication that we have the technical data. You do have to drill down a little further into that screen she showed you with the approved sources or drawing, because sometimes there will be some tech data that looks like it's available, but we're only buying it from approved sources because there are part numbers listed in addition. So if you look at the AMSC code, when you're in that DIB search and when you click on that NSN drill down, if you see an AMSC of G, that means the item is fully competitive. I believe the one she showed you had an AMSC of B, which would mean that we do not have all of the required or do not have the rights to use. We have to have the data as well as the rights to use the data. But yeah, we really are looking for manufacturers to go into DIBs and view those solicitations where we have the technical data, and then it's right there in DIBs in the C folders. You pull down that technical data and any specs that might be required. If it's a mill spec or a fed spec, then you would have to also go into assist, which is where the specifications are loaded. But anybody can go in and access those. And for the drawings and the technical data, you get it right out of the C folders. And one important thing that Crystal mentioned is the export control certification that you would need to look at. A fair amount of our drawings are export control required. And so you have to have that certification, and that's how we ensure that this export control data does not get away from us or get into, foreign countries and things like that. So it restricts you. You can't look at that data, if you're out of the country and things like that. And then, of course, you can't provide that data to another supplier or subcontractor unless they also have an export control certification. And there's some other tech data that may have rights, like a rights guard agreement or something like that might be required. It's just that's a fairly simple step to fill out that agreement, stating how you will handle that data when the contract is over. But for the export control, there are several forms that you have to fill out. It's called JCP certification, and you submit that to the DLA JCP office, and they do an evaluation to make sure that data is releasable to your firm. And if you need assistance with this, if you look at slide, I believe it was slide 5, and that gives the DLA Aviation Small Business Office email box. It's DLA Aviation Small Bus at DLA.mil. And if you send that into that central mailbox, we can get you in touch with our business opportunity specialist who can help you with that application. But it's processed by the central DLA JCP office, and they have, a number of these to process, and they do have to do a fair amount of research when they're processing the application. So it's not something that's going to be turned around in a week. It's probably going to take several weeks to get that turned around. So in the meantime, while you're waiting for that, you can certainly look at drawings that do not require the JCP certification, but definitely looking for manufacturers. And if you're socioeconomic category, a service-disabled veteran or hub zone or 8A or woman-owned, it helps being a manufacturer as well to perform on those set-asides where we do have the technical data.
Okay, thank you for that detailed response there, John. So we don't have any more questions. Any parting words for this presentation, John or Crystal, before we wrap this up?
Well, we really thank you for having us and setting all this up and getting all the attendees, to attend and listen in. And we're definitely looking for small businesses to support the aviation industrial base and new small businesses. So hopefully folks can reach out to us, and we have a capability statement on the website that you can send in to our email box, or you can just send in whatever general capability statement that you have, so we can take a look and see, where the opportunities may be. And I also urge folks that if you're not fit with DLA Aviation, remember we have troop support for the medicine and the food and the subsistence, and we have land and maritime. Land and Maritime has commonality in suppliers with aviation because they buy a lot of machine-type parts and those types of items, structural parts that go on the vehicles and the maritime weapon systems. And then, of course, services, we talked about DCSO. So a lot of opportunities within DLA, even if it's not aviation. You know, we'd like for y'all to pursue those opportunities and let us know anytime you need help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you so much, Crystal. We do appreciate you doing this today. It's been very, very helpful. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. I will be sending the presentation out to you shortly, and the recording will be available on our website tomorrow. And we do encourage you, as always, to speak to your PTAC counsellor for any help. If you don't have a counsellor, we encourage you to sign up at the website. And thanks to all again, and we'll hope to see you again on another webinar. Bye-bye.